EVE Online. The amount of issues with this game, it makes new players and I hate it with a passion. But to identify these problems, I must simplify how the game introduces new players. You're dropped off in the middle of a big ass universe named New Eden, where places I guess are supposed to be galaxies with names I won't even try to pronounce. You want. Alright, all jokes aside, let's get to the point. As a new player in EVE Online, you choose from one out of 4 factions that you would join, a specific bloodline to that faction. Each faction has its own principles it stands on. Not that this matters, the game won't be any different based on your choice. You're then going to customize an avatar which will be a capsuleer, EVE's terminology for your ship's pilot. The avatar customization is in the most detailed way most games don't offer. Now for a game like EVE that's over 2 decades old by now, the unique feature, I'll give it that, but at the same time, it's just a waste of time. There's no direct control over your avatar for anything else but flying a spaceship around. You might as well give everyone the same default character.
Oh, everyone here's a Steve! Oh my gosh!
There's literally an option to give your avatar forehead wrinkles, supposedly to make it look older than who? Then what? And why? Can you name any other game that has so many custom features for an uncontrollable avatar? I'll be waiting for your comment. I heard back in the early stages of the game, you were actually able to control your avatar by walking around space stations, and there was a captain's quarters players can go to. Now this is when a custom avatar makes sense. But you know what the smart-minded CCP did? They removed the feature entirely from the game, which killed the whole purpose of making a custom avatar in the first place, when the game insists on you doing it. For a sophisticated game like EVE Online, you wouldn't expect maneuvering a spaceship is the only form of active gameplay. It's 2024, leave that for the racing games. But this isn't really the main problem with EVE. For most new players, what they struggle with is taking the initiative to actually learn how to play the game to a deeper level. Now this is the part where you ask,
what do you mean by that?
After creating your affectionate capsuleer, you're given a simple tutorial where you're taught the very basics, such how to maneuver your ship, and more importantly, how to attack other ships.
Target lock confirmed. Time to hit them where it hurts. Fire at will, Captain. Make sure to use both of your guns.
That's it, Captain. Let him have it.
We're taking heavy fire, Commander Ferris. Once our ship is destroyed, the pod will soon follow. According to my calculations, our destruction is 99.99% certain.
During this part, your pilot inevitably dies.
You are a capsuleer. For you, death is not an end.
In response to a new body in a space station, where you continue the tutorial now learning a bit of the fundamentals of the game, like how to navigate throughout New Eden and how to take on mission assignments. You're into an hour if not 2 of the game at this point. After you complete the tutorial, you're left to handle and learn the rest of the game on your own. This is where the problems arise. As a new player, you start to wonder, what's even the point of this game? You took an hour-long tutorial, now you should have a basic grasp of how the game works, right? An open world, well open universe in this case, where there isn't a specific objective, is all based on what you choose to do. You can just wing it solo, grind on missions, and fight your own battles, or you can join other player alliances to discover and participate in new things, like intense wars.
Guys, stop shooting coin. Stop shooting coin. Your DPS needs to be on Rowena. Stop shooting coin. Stop shooting coin. Follow the primary. Very good. Now shoot coin. Now swap to coin. Shoot coin. Shoot coin. Shoot coin. Spread tackle. Nothing fucking leaves, okay?
But we overlook this as a new player because the game comes off as boring. The tutorial itself didn't really teach you shit. Mining space rocks and just doing missions for the fun of it is not even 5% of what the entire game is about. The first impression is not enough to entice players to learn more about the game. You're expected to learn the game as if you're trying to learn astrophysics or Korean straight out of a textbook. There's always going to be a part where you get stuck on. You can either go read a 1,000-page wiki made in 2004 or watch 20 tutorial videos of how to actually do anything in the game. Some of you may argue, well, that's the whole point, not to give everything on a silver platter in the beginning. But when did it stop being the game's job to entice players to want to play the game? It's sad to say more effort was put into making a cinematic trailer for EVE rather than an adequate tutorial. The worst part is, most people don't want to play a game where you have to rely on a dynamic spreadsheet to figure out how to travel from point A to point B, or to identify enemy players and objects around you. Most modern games, you rely mostly on your avatar's perspective and natural intuition. You don't rely on a data sheet to navigate throughout the terrain, or to know where opposing players are. At Fortnite, no one really notices the compass on top of the screen for navigation or situational awareness. There's only a handful of players that rely on it. Whether you rely on it or not, it doesn't make you any better at the game. It's just there for analytical thinkers. The point I'm trying to make is, most modern games are forcing players to learn complex mechanics that aren't important to completing the game's objective. I'm sure the people that play EVE till this day was just like you and me, just wanting to skip the learning phase and go straight into action. But unfortunately, you're gonna have to learn. So get your notepad out before you decide to play this game. EVE is on a whole different level, making it a very non-intuitive game. This is what new players struggle to adapt to. And I'm not saying EVE Online is too advanced to learn. Anybody can if they actually care to. There are probably some people like some of you watching this video right now that play EVE, and you probably enjoy playing it. I commend you guys really and truly. You have more patience than most people. I also want to ask y'all, what enjoyment do you find in playing EVE? It's a game heavily relying on your time, but it's on the game's time. Where it takes in order to do anything new or to advance as a player, you need to wait a certain time for a skill to be trained. Skills are what gives players advantages over other players, whether it comes down to PvP or PvE. Training times for skills can vary for whatever the game dictates. From days to even weeks it can take to unlock a skill, to be able to enhance your ship's artillery, or to be able to complete tasks faster. But it gets more complicated than that. To put it simply, in order to train a particular skill, you need to acquire a set amount of skill points required for that skill. Most skill points acquired by a player are handed out to them while actively training skills until they reach the 5 million skill point cap, meaning all unallocated and allocated SP a player obtains cannot go beyond that threshold. The allocated SP or permanent SP assigned to a particular skill. But just know there are some exceptions to this, one of them being not all players are subject to the skill point cap. And to not turn this into a boring tutorial video, we're going to leave it at that. Fun fact, it would take over 2 decades for one player to master all 466 skills in EVE, set by game experts themselves. So let that sink in. This feature alone is just what makes EVE a time-consuming game that drives away new players. Just imagine in COD, in order to utilize a particular gun and every attachment to that gun, you need SP to train every skill required to be able to acquire that gun. But this would beg the question, how would players obtain SP? Would it be the typical manipulative gamble on loot boxes or lucky draws that you spend $50 on and you still get bullshit?
Rigged loot boxes! Not only are they loot boxes, but they're fucking rigged!
Or the time the game dictates players can obtain X amount of SP from X amount of training time. Could be both. This alone would change the whole dynamic of the game. It would probably be the end of COD right then. The framework of EVE should depend on merit, but players can enhance their skills and abilities based on whatever they do, such as X amount of missions they complete, or even exploration achievements, stealing valuable resources from enemy territories, without dying of course. This would knock down the daunting barrier of entry for new players, where you don't have to sit in your room for 9 hours a day and grind your ass off with little to no reward. Instead, this current framework of EVE try to trap new players in a box of FOMO, fear of missing out. Just like any game, this box opens game devs' favorite door, monetary exploitation, which brings upon CCP's implementation of players versus payers. But we're gonna get more on that after this quick point I have to make. The drawbacks of EVE Online from reaching its full potential should be clear to you at this point. Although suffice it to say, 18,000 people on a live server isn't bad for an MMO, but compared to other games, EVE isn't fucking with them. What CCP failed to recognize, EVE's steep learning curve takes up time for new players to actually enjoy the game. The only thing CCP are good at recognizing is monetary gains. A few years back, EVE Online was actually a pay-to-play game with a subscription model. Potential players there liked this aspect of just wanting to experience the game, so CCP decided to make EVE free to play to bring in those players. But at the same time, it's not free, at least not the full version of the game. This is how the game devs came up with the plan.
Our revenues this quarter have remained around normal, but we're awfully close to plateau. We need to increase the rate for subscription.
I have a better idea. Why don't we make EVE a free...
Free? Are you crazy? We'll go out of business.
Wait, let me finish. We won't make EVE free. We'll make it a freemium to play.
So we'll live off microtransactions like every dogmatic company.
There's the one-eyed glasses wearing motherfucker.
But no. would keep the subscription in place so that payers would always be ahead of the freemium players.
Not a bad idea indeed. I propose we shall call our loyal players the Alpha and the freeloaders Beta.
That's too cheesy. That will eventually bring Eve down a rabbit hole.
But our loyal players will always stick with us until the end.
That's it.
What?
And so, Omega became the new symbol of the true Alpha of New Eden, the final letter of a weird-ass alphabet, which symbolizes the last people to finally give up on this game until God knows when. While Beta, I mean Alpha players, on the other hand, would designate that name, obviously not to offend anyone. Like seriously, you can't be that naive to not realize they even made Alpha lowercase. This segregation between the free-to-play and paying players was introduced to the game to benefit who exactly? The players or the CCP? The other CCP, not the Communist China one. Anyways, this was the perfect predatorial plan implemented into the game to leverage its monetization, turning Eve into, if you can't pay, don't stay game. Alpha players wouldn't reap the same benefits from the full game if they were to pay to be an Omega member for full access. Not gonna go through the whole list for the sake of this video, but to summarize, Omega players basically has access to everything, like all the actual good ships and all the skills that advances your place in the game. Being an Alpha player in Eve is like playing a demo version of GTA Online, where your rank is capped at level 5 out of 8,000 levels, and only gun you can buy at Ammunition is a pistol while everyone else is toting around AKs and machine guns. The gap between Alpha and Omega players' game experience is wider than a 2 gap. As an Alpha player, you're gonna feel more like a Beta player that's not respected enough to have a fair chance in the game. This transition in the Eve's player dynamic just shows how predatorial CCP were good, as they only view players nothing more than prey for their pockets. What other way would make sense to get more eyes on their game? Of course they're gonna make Eve free to play. So let's not act like CCP did it out of the kindness of their hearts. When a game becomes free to play, you can be damn well sure it's not entirely gonna be free to play. There will most likely always be a catch. In Eve's case, it's apparent, especially CCP's history pissing people off with its ludicrous in-game store microtransactions. And even till this day it continues. Any OG player that looks at the Eve Online store today is gonna wonder, why the fuck are there still vanity items still in the store? A $70 game pack includes a tailored fucking suit? A tailored suit to show off the who and where? A forum people only use to complain about the same issues that never get fixed in the game? If CCP won't implement a simple avatar control feature where players can interact with one another without being confined to a spacecraft 24/7, then these vanity items are merely cash grab items that add no value to players. If the infamous monocle wasn't bad enough, a $60 cash item that sparked if not the biggest outrage in Eve's online history with its community. If you were to look through the store, the most expensive thing you could find is 20,000 plex for $650. Who is dropping that much bank on a dead game? Even though most of us have spent more than we have the courage to admit on a game we love, but non-complete bullshit like this.
No. I took this one out for you. You take this one, I keep this. You are not taking my whole wallet so you can go shopping.
I was just gonna buy some groceries.
Bullshit.
20,000 plex equates to about 3 years of Omega access. In 3 years, this game will probably be dead before you know it.
Stop! He's already dead.
But it's funny though, because it used to be 1,300 plex with an add-on of 7,000 plex for $650. Now it's a limited time discount. They marked up the value of plex for a lower bargain. If that's not desperation at its finest, I don't know what is. There's a community of y'all out there that bashes new players that do decide to try out Eve, but when they realize it's a game for the I have no life, they get flooded with responses like, Eve Online has a brain cell requirement for enjoyment that some players may not be able to reach. Those players are given a soft foam helmet and are carefully guided back to the Call of Duty website. Now that's fucked up. It's really funny because there's people out here who actually think enjoyment for certain video games stems from intelligence. Not everyone is going to define the type of fun as completing miscellaneous tasks in a spaceship or clicking one to a few buttons, calling it an intense PvP battle. Of course, Eve is going to be more complex in a game like COD, where it mostly relies more on reflexes and quick decisive action. That's what makes the game what it is. With either being fun to a player is subjective and doesn't correlate to intelligence. In Eve, you have to learn as you play the game, and not learn like intuitive muscle memory stuff, like a normal video game. Learn as in, it's not difficult, but it's just tedious is to. And unless you're committed to the game and you found the first hour of playing Eve as fun, then props to you. So is it really a cerebral problem that prevents people from enjoying certain video games, or everyone just has their own preference of what they find enjoyment in? Let me know what y'all think. Like and subscribe if you're not a bot.